Good morning. It's April 28th. This is To My Liberal Friends. The Democrats have been waging a war of legal fights with Donald Trump ever since he shocked everyone and defeated Hillary Clinton in 2016. They spent the entire 4 years of his presidency trying to impeach him and remove him from office. Once he was out of office, they filed one charge after another, dragging him from courtroom to courtroom. This was an attempt to keep him from running again, and when he did in 2024, he soundly defeated Democratic candidate Kamala Harris. In all these legal attacks, you heard over and over Democrats, as well as their cohorts in the media, say that nobody was above the law, and therefore Trump had to be held to account. It was repeated so many times that eventually the public tuned it out and ignored it. The more they attacked Trump, the more popular he became in the polls. Even today, they use the same basic claim, but burnished with Trump being a threat to democracy. When ICE swept up Abrego Garcia and deported him to El Salvador, the Democrats pounced on this action and demanded this, quote, Maryland man, who was in their opinion a law-abiding citizen, although he's not really a citizen. How many of you actually believe this rubbish? And when it finally came to the court, Supreme Court ruled that the administration would have to bring him back. Once again, Democrats and all liberals said that, quote, nobody is above the law. Before I go any further, I will state, as I have before, that the administration should bring Abrego Garcia back to this country, place him before an immigration judge immediately, allow he and his lawyers to plead their case, and then order him deported for the third time. Then he will have had the due process that those like Senator Chris Van Hollen demand he be given. You notice that Van Hollen has pivoted from defending this thug himself and talks only about due process and obeying the law. Well, this past week, all of this, quote, no one's above the law talk came back to bite the Democrats. A Milwaukee County Circuit judge was arrested by the FBI on Friday and charged in federal court for helping an illegal immigrant from being detained by ICE. Apparently, federal agents went to Judge Hannah Dugan's courtroom on April 18 with the intention of arresting Eduardo Flores Ruiz, a Mexican national, for the purpose of removing him from the United States. Flores Ruiz had previously been removed from the United States and once again illegally entered the country, even though it is clearly against the law to re-enter the country after having been deported. They learned this because he had been arrested for domestic abuse. That was what brought them before Judge Dugan. Witnesses told investigators that Dugan confronted the federal agents in a public hallway where she repeatedly demanded they leave, saying they needed a different kind of warrant to make the arrest. Dugan ordered the agents to speak with the chief judge at the courthouse. Witnesses also stated that Judge Dugan then directed Flores Ruiz and his attorney to leave through a jury door instead of the normal exit where the federal officials intended to detain him. Unfortunately for Mr. Flores Ruiz, he was able to exit the courthouse, and when federal agents identified themselves, he took off running. But that was a futile attempt to escape, and he was quickly captured. It was the actions of Judge Dugan that led to her arrest. She's being charged with obstruction and concealing an individual from arrest. Another judge in Wisconsin is now saying she won't hold court until the charges are dropped, and she won't assist any deportation efforts. She used the new Democratic phrase of due process. What about the illegal act of entering the country repeatedly, even after being deported? Does that get due process over and over and over? This was not the first case of a judge trying to hide or intervene in the arrest of an illegal immigrant. A magistrate judge in Dona Ana County, New Mexico, Jose Luis Cano, and his wife Nancy Cano are accused of tampering with evidence linked to the arrest of an undocumented migrant suspected of being a member of the Venezuelan gang Tren de Aragua, according to 2 criminal complaints. Apparently, they were hiding Christian Ortega Lopez, a member of the Tren de Aragua gang, who had been charged earlier in the year for unlawful possession of firearms and ammunition. Once again, this judge was trying to thwart attempts by federal agents to arrest a known criminal. After a search warrant was issued for the judge's home, resulted in Mr. Cano saying that he destroyed Ortega Lopez's phone by smashing it with a hammer and discarding the remaining piece to the city trash dumpster approximately 5 weeks ago, adding he thought the phone, quote, contained photos or videos that would reflect negatively. This was part of his statement to the federal officers. All this puts the Democrats in a bind. They keep saying that nobody's above the law, but apparently that term does not apply to anyone on their side of the political spectrum. When Obama and Biden were deporting people, no Democrat objected. And you did not hear them talk about the rule of law or due process. Once Biden's staff realized it was a political problem, the administration started deporting people. In 2024, they deported 271,000 people. Not a peep from any other Democrat. In his first month in office, the Trump administration deported 37,600 people. far below the monthly average of 57,000 during Biden's last year in office. And suddenly it's, we want due process. Take these people to court, allow them to stay here. Barack Obama was often called the deporter-in-chief, and the numbers back it up. During his administration, the total deportations were over 5 million people. Where was the outrage by Democrats? Where was the demand for due process? Where was the cry for the rule of law? You guessed it, there was nothing said, because when Democrats deport illegal migrants, it's okay with other Democrats. Talk about hypocrisy. It's there, plain and simple, right in front of you. This has been To My Liberal Friends. Thanks for listening.